the cup and the league all to be won. Everyone knows there's a job to be done, and with a team so fine, I'm proud they're mine. We'll be singing this song. For we're past from Birmingham Athletic, and now we are on song. For we're past from Birmingham Athletic, and we'll go marching on.
The Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association podcast is sponsored by Starnut Apparel. Affordable and stylish clothing born on the terraces. Just head to www.starnutapparel.co.uk.
Welcome to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, the podcast brought to you by the Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association. We'll be taking another nostalgic stroll through the rich history of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. And I'm your host, Mikey Motkiewicz. We'll be deep diving into the heart and soul of the Pars, celebrating the legends who graced the pitch at East End Park. In this, we'll connect with former players, managers and coaches, reliving their memorable moments, personal triumphs and the challenges they faced during their career in the game. From stunning victories and cup triumphs to the behind-the-scenes stories, we'll be bringing you exclusive interviews with the people who have lived and breathed Dunfermline Athletic. In this latest episode, we speak to a former midfielder, Stevie Morrison, who spent 9 seasons at the club during the 1980s. Signed from Aberdeen in 1981, Zico or Snowy would become a fan's favourite at East End Park. In this podcast, we hear about his love for Dunfermline Athletic, the promotions, playing in the Premier League, playing for Jim Leishman, and his close relationship with the Pars supporters. So sit back and enjoy this one with Zico or Snowy, Stevie Morrison.
That's good play by McCall. For the middle is Watson, he's onside, a great chance for Dunfermline. Good running by Watson. He needs support now. And it must be this time, yes. Steve Morrison in the end. It was a long time coming after the initial break, but Steve Morrison gives Dunfermline the lead.
So, welcome to the podcast, Stevie Morrison. How are we doing, Stevie?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure.
No problem. First, before we start, you've got 2 famous nicknames from your time at Dunfermline, Zico and Snowy. So tell us about how they came about.
Well, funnily enough, the Snowy one, I left school at 16 to go to Aberdeen. And I was there, I was just a young boy, 16-year-old. And you know, it's like nicknames are synonymous for football teams. You know, every guy's got a nickname. So the strange thing about mine was that, so I was up there 16, just turning 17, just a young boy, and you're full of kind of superstars. But so every guy had a nickname. So they try to get one for me. And ironically enough, I don't know if you're obviously a lot younger than me, but there was a guy called David Fairclough, played by Liverpool back in the 70s. He was a super sub kind of guy, right? And he was thin, gangly, kind of strawberry blonde hair, and the boys went like that. By the way, that big Stevie looks like David Fairclough. So I was Fairclough. See, for about 7 weeks, I was Fairclough, right? So that it was beginning to stick, and I thought, I don't know if it was a good one or a bad one, but I was Fairclough. But then, good thing or bad thing, I was in digs up in Aberdeen, and the landlady and the landlord went down to Blackpool for the weekend. And there was 4 of us staying in the digs, me, the guy Tam Maguire, Neil Burke, and Big Alec McLeish. I remember Big Alec. And they went down to Blackpool, and they came back, and they you know, it's like down there, so they bought us all T-shirts back, right? So it was like, mine was it was a horrible T-shirt. I remember, I hate saying that, it was a horrible T-shirt, but so it had a picture of a goat on it, right? And Snowy was on the T-shirt. Snowy must have been the name of the goat, right? And then they get Stevie printed on the top of it, just for, so it was for me. So they bought, there's a T-shirt for you. I thought, oh, it was a horrible yellow colour with a goat called Snowy at the bottom. I'm going, I can't wear that. But then I remember, and this is this is a God's honest truth. So I must have woke up one day. This is 1978, and there's nothing else to wear. All the stuff was getting washed. Here, I shove this T-shirt on, and I wore it to training one day back in 1978 in Aberdeen. And I walked in with a T-shirt. The boys are going, "What's that T-shirt, man? What's that, Snowy?" And that was it. So Fairclough disappeared, and Snowy became my nickname.
Tremendous.
For 3 years at Aberdeen, right? I don't know if it's probably a wee slightly better than Fairclough. So it was Snowy for 3 years. But then the strange thing is, so I then, 1981, I signed with Dunfermline, right? So I leave Aberdeen, go to Dunfermline, walk into the Dunfermline changing room back in 1981. So nobody knows I'm Snowy. It's just Dunfermline have signed Stevie Morrison for Aberdeen. So I'm back in the Dunfermline dressing room. Stevie, how you doing? So I'm Stevie. So Snowy, I think, that's gone forever. But ironically enough, the boy Dougie Considine, who played with Aberdeen, whose boy Andy plays now, he was at Aberdeen when I was there. Dunfermline signed him about 2 months into the season or whatever it was. So he comes down to Dunfermline, into the dressing room. Oh, there's big Snowy. The boys are going like, who's Snowy? I'm Steve Snowy. And then, so it picked up again. And because I was at Dunfermline for so long, Snowy just stuck and throughout football. And even, listen, you wouldn't believe it. See the boys at school? I'm Snowy at school. No, I see somebody shout Stevie. I won't turn around. Honestly, I think it's only my wife that calls me Stephen. Every other person in life calls me Snowy. It's quite bizarre.
Brilliant. I take it the Zico nickname then came later on in Dunfermline times.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I wish Zico stuck more than Snowy did, obviously. I went through a patch in my days of work, so I was always Snowy, right? And I must have, don't know, within about 6 games, I've scored 4 free kicks into the top corner, right? And obviously Zico, the Brazilian back, what a player he was, the Brazilian back then was synonymous for the free kick. So at Zico, I mean, I used to run overtake corners, and it was just standing there and shouting Zico, man, what a compliment that was. So that lasted, that was only maybe a season or something. Zico stuck because of my free kicks and stuff like that. Although Big Reece, funny enough, when I see him, still calls me Zico. But that was just a kind of, I wish it did last longer. That was a kind of, I would love them walking about the school, the boys would call me Zico, do you know what I mean? But
I know half.
That was a kind of short-term thing. So, and Snowy's the one that's just stuck forever.
Nice. See, when you think it, we'll obviously touch on the film, but at that time, like, so many of the boys had pretty iconic nicknames. You had like Ziggy for Bowie, you had Honk for Norrie, Winker with John Watson,
Shaggy, Grant Jenkins.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it's funny how, you pick up nicknames. You're right, very, very iconic names. You know what I mean?
Good times, mate. We'll touch on that later on anyway.
Good times, aye.
Perfect. Before we get into your life and career, we'll start off a few questions. So who would you say is your favourite band and then your favourite song?
Well, I saw you message that here. And honestly, I'm huge in my music. I absolutely love my music. I can't sing a note, but music's been huge to me over the years, just growing up. And I do a quiz every Thursday at school in the staff room. It's a music quiz. But I don't have I love all genres of music. But if I had to pick one, and it sounds a bit cheesy and a bit naff, but back in just when I was joining the film in the LA's, I'm a big Duran fan, believe it or not. I kind of love their music, and I'm going to embarrass myself here. I kind of modelled myself about Simon Le Bon, and that kind of, the hair and stuff like that. And I used to dye my hair blonde and all that. Do you know what I mean? Looking back, it's horrendous. But so throughout the years, I wish I'd done it years ago, but only latterly, maybe the last 5-10 years, I like going to festivals and gigs and stuff like that. I never done that. Maybe it was just such a big thing back then, but I never really went to gigs when I was younger. But I love my music. I've seen a lot of good bands, and I absolutely, and it's quite. I'm not the brightest, right? But see, like probably 80s music, or I know. See, you told me who sang that. I get it in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you the 4 times table, but see, musically, I don't know. See obscure songs back in the 80s. Who sang that? I would know in a heartbeat. So I love my music. Probably So I probably would say maybe back in the day, Durant. I've seen him about half a dozen times in the last sort of 5 years, and probably the one Girls on Film. I don't know if you remember that one back.
I do, yeah.
The one
classic.
I used to go to Magaluf and all that stuff, and that would come on. You'd got for a wee jig and all that. So probably, I know it's a bit cheesy, but probably if I had to pick one, I'd probably maybe say Duran were when I started out enjoying my music. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Did you ever meet Stuart Adamson and the Big Country Boys during your time at Dunfermline?
Well, funnily enough, I did actually. Because they used to record in the old gym hall, and I used to, cause they were. I probably should have said one of the Fields of Fire was a great song. I love that one. But the good thing, I'll never forget it, and I've still got the programme to this day. I can't remember, it must have been years ago, but Stuart did, how they would get celebrities to do their favourite all-time Dunfermline 11. And I was in Stuart's.
Right,
I was in, which honestly, see, when I saw that, I get quite emotional thinking about it just now, but that really touched me. Such a superstar as him. And you think, and he was a die-hard Dunfermline supporter, so you think of all the players he's seen over the years. He's seen everybody, but I was in his all-time Dunfermline 11, and I say I've still got the programme. Every time I'm feeling down, I'll go and pick it up and look at it. But
amazing.
And so they were a great band, and I wouldn't say I wasn't the best pals with them, but I would walk by them and say hello and have a quick chat with them. Do you know what I mean? They were great lads. It was good to see a local band doing so well. Obviously tragic what happened to him, at the end up, but it was a really good lad, Stuart, actually, yeah.
Brilliant. What an experience, eh? What an experience getting to meet these guys. Who was your team growing up, mate, and who was your childhood hero?
Well, funnily enough, I'm a Fife boy, actually, believe it or not. But my dad must have been back in the day, because you're talking. I was 6. I was born 61, so when I was through the 60s, when I was a young boy, that was it. I grew up. Celtic was my team. You obviously go in, and I've supported them ever since. You know what I mean? So, Celtic have all supported them. Yeah.
And who was your childhood hero then?
Well, back in the day when I used to go and watch them, when I was maybe starting to go down, Kenny Dalglish, when he was coming through at Celtic, or what a player he was. I used to see him at Parkhead, when he was just making the grade there, and I see he must have been 3 or 4 years. I used to go and see him, and I thought, and then obviously went on to Liverpool and did what he did down there. So I would say probably. I mean, I've obviously been interested in football. You do admire a lot of players you see and think he's good. But back, he was when I started getting into my football at an early age. Dalglish was, I thought he was absolutely magnificent.
Nah, what a legend! Have you ever met him?
No, I've not even. He's obviously, but I don't even think. But no, I wouldn't have played against him. That's pushing up a bit. But no, never even. I don't even think I've been in. Obviously, you go to a lot of football events. I don't even think I've been in the same room. No, I couldn't have been in the same room, because I know if I would have been, I would have got a photograph. It's a bit embarrassing, but because he was my age, I would ask for something. But no, I've never had the opportunity, unfortunately.
A nightmare. If you could pick a dream 5-a-side team with players that you've played with in your career, could you name 5 players?
That was another one. That was difficult, because I've played with a lot of really good players in my time. A lot of hopeless ones as well, to be fair. But no, so I did. So because obviously we're Dunfermline oriented, the only one I feel a bit bad, because I was going to put Westie in my team, but as a boy, I'll start with the goalkeeper. So I moved from Dunfermline to Hamilton, and there was a young goalkeeper called Alan Ferguson, just starting through at Hamilton, and he was earmarked to go, big places, but unfortunately he never materialised. I think because he was never the tallest, but the boy Alan Ferguson was an absolutely wonderful. He played with the 21s and 19s with Scotland, and he was, he's tipped to be, a kind of superstar. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out for him. But again, I think it might have been because he wasn't the tallest, and obviously a goalkeeper that can hinder you a wee bit. But he was an absolute goalkeeper. So I'd probably have Alan Fergie. Well, Fergie we called him in goals. And then the other 4 I'm going to go with. Obviously, I'd have Norrie in it. No, I mean, I think, we obviously know what an absolute legend Norrie is, do you know what I mean? But I think people maybe underestimate. I maybe been doing him a disservice, maybe because they see him as this legend at the club because of his, the service he gave and his big heart, but he could play as well, Norrie, do you know what I mean? So I definitely have Norrie in there. I mean, he's going here. I hate McCall, my pal. He does my head in at times, you know what I mean? But he absolutely great ability. Got his move to Rangers when I was at Dunfermline with him, so and I still see him to this day, and he's a big-headed so-and-so, but I'd probably have him in it. Another one I'd have it in for Dunfermline, I think, was maybe, I don't know, underestimated, but Davy Irons, when he came to Dunfermline, to be fair, I think he took my place in Dunfermline for a wee while, but when he came for, I think he came for Clydebank, I thought he was an absolutely two-footed by. I mean, I was no bad with my both feet, but I thought he technically he was an absolutely fantastic player. I thought Dave Irons, and he did well for Dunfermline, and he's done well in his career. But I thought, I thought he was maybe, I thought he could have maybe played at a real high level if he got the opportunity, because he technically he was first class. He had great touch, great vision, great control, two great feet. So I would have him in it. And when is that?
You got one more.
One more. Probably looking for your top up. It's got to be Winker in it for the goals. If you look for a goal scorer, probably need to be Winker, who again was just just an absolute goal machine. You know what I mean? And a great lad as well, Winker. Do you know what I mean? So off the park was the best to have about, but probably Winker up front for the goals. I would need to throw Winker in it.
Good choice. I'm sure you could tell us a few stories about John and Winker off the field.
Can't go there.
No, we'll not do that. So we'll go right back to your early life. Like you say, you're actually a Fifer. So you were born in August 61 in St Andrews and grew up in Methil. So tell us a little bit about your early days and growing up playing football.
That's what I'm saying. It was obviously my dad was for Kirkcaldy, and my granddad as well. So they were Kirkcaldy, but he moved. They were living in Methil, so and I would say born in St Andrews, but that was the nearest place to when you're pregnant in Methil, you went to St Andrews to have your child. So born in St Andrews, Creighton Hospital, but lived for the first 5 years of my life in Methil, and we were 30 yards from Bayview, and I should, I'm saying Celtic's my team, and a really soft spot for East Fife, because I was, a kick of the ball away for growing up in Bayview, Wolseley Road, I remember it was the main street in Methil, so I lived there. Don't really remember too much about it. I remember my first ever game was East Fife, East St Johnstone. I went to see them. So I grew up in Methil. I went in sort of preschool there, but I don't really remember too much about it. And then my dad, he was in the baby clothes business. They get an opportunity when we moved through to Glasgow when I was about 5-6 year old, and then basically I'm an adopted Glaswegian, I suppose. But I spent obviously most of my days in Glasgow. But we moved to Bishopbriggs, just the outskirts of the city, and I grew up, primary school, secondary school, going to Bishopbriggs. So I'd always wonder because previously I was talking about going through Ely and all that. So every time I go through there, there's a quicker way, but I always drive through Methil. Always drive through, leaving, go through Methil, and I actually drive by the flat that we used to stay in as a family. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to demean Methil in any way, but I always wonder how I would have turned out because there seems to be nothing there now. Do you know what I mean? It's just all derelict and shut down, you know what I mean? And which is a real shame. And I drive by it there, and on the way back, I'll drive by it and I look up at the flat and I think, geez, you wonder if my dad never got the opportunity to move to Glasgow, would I still be the same guy? You know what I mean? You don't know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange, but it brings. I'm a Fife boy, so I've got and I've got to try for because my dad, my granddad were for Kirkcaldy. I used to go and see Wraith a lot as well, so it's quite ironic. I played for Dunfermline for nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
But I've got a real affinity with East Fife and Raith Rovers. And I look out, obviously Dunfermline will always be my team, and that's the one I go and watch and I look out for. But I do want Raith and East Fife to do well because of my closeness geographically to them, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And what about your pathway in football then? Obviously, you moved through to Glasgow, and then what kind of your boys' club before you end up joining St Mirren?
Football. Listen, football was all out in the streets back then. You could do that, but obviously the traffic that we played in the street. My dad was a big football guy. So he had the opportunity to go to Aston Villa. He played his time at he had to go to the forces and stuff like that. So I'm not saying he pushed me, he didn't need to push me, but he was very influential in my football. All I did as a young boy was play football in the streets and at primary school, secondary school, played with the school team. Just football was my thing. I was obsessed by it. And then, so you're talking about, 12, 13, I joined a team called Posso YM, which were huge back then. I went to Glasgow, I played with Glasgow Amateurs at 14. And then the thing that kind of triggered it, or I went to, you get picked up, but I went to St Mirren Boys Club when I was 15. I played under 15 and under 16 at St Mirren Boys Club. They played the top league. It was with, Easter Craigs and all the top teams then. So I played with them. And that's where under 16 level, so they were affiliated with St Mirren Football Club. So when I was playing under 16 level, I was a striker back then, scoring a lot of goals, and doing really well. And St Mirren, this is the Aberdeen connection, so Fergie was the manager. Fergie was the manager of St Mirren at the time, so he'd kind of first picked on the boys coming through. So I was sort of picked up and I signed provisional forms for St Mirren. And then that was when I was 16, so I was all set to going to St Mirren at 17 as a youth player. But then obviously Fergie went to sign for Aberdeen. So that kind of left me in the lurch a wee bit. So I was leaving school at 16. I was still playing with St Mirren Boys Club at 16. But I thought I was going to progress to their kind of youth teams or whatever it was back then. And then, so I was leaving school, and Alex said if Fergie went to Aberdeen. So I remember getting a phone call when I was just 16, to say, wondering what I was going to do with my life, basically, and they said, do you want to come to Aberdeen? He says, I've signed, I'm an Aberdeen manager. I want you to come to Aberdeen and sign for Aberdeen. So I was like, oh, great. I says, well, listen, I've signed these forms for St Mirren, the provisional forms. He says, oh, no, he says that they're not signed and sealed. They're just sort of, I don't know. I couldn't quite understand what it meant anyway, but what I think he was saying was he knew he was going to go to Aberdeen when he signed me, and was that keen to get me to Aberdeen that he didn't actually put the forms through. He actually kept them in his drawer.
You have to.
No, exactly. Aye. So he says, well, listen, they've not went through. They've not went to SFA. I kind of knew what was going to happen. So I said, I was really keen to get you up here, so you're free to come up, and that was it. So I always remember this to this day. So I was 16, and so my mum and dad are like, right, you want to go to Aberdeen? And I was a right home boy. I was a mummy's boy, basically. I said, I'm not going to Aberdeen. To me, that was the other end of the world. I says, I don't want to leave home. I'm not ready to leave home. And they're like, well, this is a great opportunity. It's something you really got to look at, and it's what you've always wanted. I says, I know, but I don't want to leave home. And I always remember it was a Sunday, and I remember my nana, my mum's mums, they were from Darlington, they were from down south, and my nana was up, and my mum and dad, my nana says, right, Stephen, why don't we drive up to Aberdeen? We'll go look round Pittodrie, we'll go where your digs are, and we'll come back down the road, and we'll make a decision then. I says, aye, all right. So we drove up on the Sunday. This is the God's honest truth. We drove up, and me, my mum and dad, and my nana, we drove up, went to Pittodrie, met Fergie. I walked around Pittodrie, drove to a place called Maastricht in Aberdeen, where the landlady was, looked around the house and stuff like that. And then they said, right, what do you think? I said, well, we'll go back down and I'll make my mind up. I still wasn't too sure. And I remember my mum going, well, Stephen, why don't you just stay for a wee while and see how you settle in? I says, oh, no, I've only got my clothes, what I've got on. She says, no, they'd actually packed a bag, right, unbeknownst to me, right, with my clothes in it and my living gear, put it in the boot of the car, because they knew that if I didn't stay up, see if I came back down, I would probably never have went back up again. They were quite clever. They packed a bag, said, Stephen, listen, we've got some stuff for you here. Why don't you give it a shot? And I never came back down the road. I must have been up there for about a month, training and living. And then, because I was the kind of ground staff back then, every once a month you came back down the road. And that was it. I was with for 3 years. And it was very, very strange, because I think if I had come back down the road after that first visit, I don't think they got me back up again, but they were clever and brought up my bag with me. There's your Norrie, you got your stuff there, and that was it. And I loved it. I loved it up there. I didn't. The only time I was there for 3 years. The only time I got homesick was see in the summer when you come back close season. I came back down to Bishop Briggs for the 6-7 weeks, and then when I went back up, I found it hard to get back into the game. But once I did, I loved it up there. Really good up there, and I settled in. Great. And it was, and although I only played one first team game, played a lot of reserve stuff, but there were some great players coming through. But football wise, going to Aberdeen at that age, I'd rather, in hindsight, see if I went to Dunfermline first and was 19, 20 and got a move to Aberdeen, I might have been able to make a career at Aberdeen, but just a young boy. But see, in terms of me as a person, it was the making of me as a person. Going for a wee boy to a man, because it was a demanding dressing room as well. You had to kind of grow up quite quickly, being away from home as well. So it was brilliant for me in terms of, and it's certainly made me not so much the player, but the guy I am today, without a doubt.
Brilliant. And what was your relationship like with the manager? You mentioned of Alex Ferguson, who done all right for himself.
Didn't like him. This sounds bizarre. He's probably he is the best manager Scotland have ever produced, bar none, probably. But he was, he wasn't my cup of tea. I hate using the words right, but he was a bully. You know what I mean? He picked on boys, and I didn't like. Maybe because I was a young boy, and I thought, wait a minute, that's not right. No, he wasn't my cup of tea, and he's done. Obviously, what he's done is, remarkable. But and there was times, he would pick on the young boys and show off. Picking the young boys to show off to the first team boys and all that. And I always remember, and I wish, I was a young boy, 16. I left when I was maybe 19, and I never really. A couple of times. Well, I'll tell you a couple. If you got time to tell, a couple of wee stories.
Go for it. Of course, go for it.
So when two things. Well, first, when I remember when I'd been up there 3 years. I must have been just 18, coming on 19, and I came back. It must have been May time, 1981, before I just joined the Fairman. And I was come back for the weekend, and the season was about finishing. But I back for the weekend. I still had to go back up and sort things out. So I came back. I remember waking up Sunday morning in Bishop Briggs with my mum and dad. Go to Sunday Mail. Read just through the sport as you do, and the headline on one of the pages: Aberdeen set to release 5 players. I thought, I wonder who that is. I wonder, who it'll be. So I looked down. I'm one of them, right? My name, it says Aberdeen are releasing blah 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 and Stevie Morrison. I'm going, what? And I showed my mum. I said, that's unbelievable. And I was absolutely raging. No, listen, not the fact I'm getting released. The fact I've got to read that in the paper.
Yeah,
and I've got to go to you. I've got to go to my mum and dad and say, by the way, I'm reading the paper that I'm getting released. Now, see if this was 10 years down the line and a manager had done that. Listen, I'm no confrontational at all. And to this day, it's the one regret I've got. I didn't get up on a Monday morning, chat his door and say, boss, listen, see if you're going to release me. At least have the decency to tell me first before I'm going down in front of my mum and dad and my brother and my sister, and they're reading I'm getting released in a paper. And that's the one regret I've got. So obviously got a few, right, that I wasn't brave enough, I suppose, if you want it, for want of a better word, that I didn't go down and chat his door and say, listen, that's totally disrespectful to me. See if you release me, I've not got an issue with that. But pull me into your office and tell me you're releasing me. And it's the one thing and I kind of wish I'd done. But also see, on the flip side, and I always thought that, and I didn't listen. I will not change how I think about him, right? But so I left, blah blah blah, and he had plenty of opportunity to. Because I went to East Stirling at a time as well when I was really, really struggling at East Stirling as a manager. And in the papers now, you'll see how he backs his former players who went on to be managers, right? Mark McGee and Willie Miller and Alec McLeish all went on. And you always see bits fairly come out and say, "Oh, I'll support him." Now, I was one of his players. I didn't play a lot of first team games. I was still an Aberdeen player for games, and I was really struggling at East Stirling. He never once picked up the phone or made a comment in the paper say, "Oh, I hope he does well." He was one of my Fergie's babes. He used to call me, the ones that he managed and they went on to become managers, Strachan and all that. But a lot better than I was. So I thought that was a bit off. You know what I mean? I thought he at least could have done was reach out for me or make some comment in the paper to kind of show he was there. Because he does. He does it. He keeps track of all his former players. But what I did found out, it's actually quite touching. So his first autobiography came out year whenever it was, right? And I didn't want to read it, right? I was that interested, but somebody says, "Listen, you better read this." And this is obviously true. So there's a paragraph about me in it, right? Although it doesn't mention me, and I'll tell you why. See, when I was up there, from 1978 to 1981, and I was about say 18, and I had. This is quite personal, right? But I'll tell you, right, whether you want to use it or not, it's up to you, right? So, ended up had what turns out testicular cancer, right? So remember, I was basically my left testicle. I was a young boy, was a lot bigger than my right. I know I'm laughing now, but it's obviously, and I was petrified of it. I didn't, and I was quite embarrassed. Blah blah blah. Anyway, cut a long story short, I went to see the physio on a Friday. He says, "By the way, you're going up to the hospital." Went to the hospital. They're like, "By the way, listen, you're coming in on Monday," and so I went into the hospital on the Monday. They operated on the Tuesday, took my testicle out because I had testicular cancer. But the strange thing was, so in his autobiography, I remember reading it. So see, as I said, I went to the hospital the Friday. See, on the Saturday, Aberdeen played Dundee in a League Cup final on the Saturday, which we all went down to, and then it was a draw. And then on the Monday, I got taken in the hospital. Tuesday, operated on. The Wednesday was the cup. They played replays. Then was cup final replay, and Dundee beat them 3-0 on the Wednesday night. Right, and I'm in hospital all that week, and players were turning up to visit me and stuff like that. And I thought nothing of it. Right, well, not that, but obviously it was a very, very serious operation, and they said if I'd waited a month longer to say it, I might not have been here. But see, I read his book, and one of the paragraphs was football. He was obsessed by football, and he said the only time football was not in my mind was back in 1979-80 when we played Aberdeen in a League Cup final, played Dundee in a League Cup final replay, and he never mentioned me by name. He said one of our young players was seriously ill in hospital. I get quite tearful when I think about it now, right? Quite seriously ill in hospital. And all my thoughts, because it was touch and go, it was a kind of life and death thing, touch and go, and all my thoughts were with the young boy in hospital and not on my game on the Wednesday night. I thought, geez, that's me he's talking about. Yeah, and he never mentioned my name, but everybody sort of knew my situation. So I'll always respect him for doing that. You know what I mean? That was it, and he didn't need to put that in his book. He says that was the only game where football wasn't in his mind. All his thoughts were on basically me, who was seriously in hospital. So although I've not got a lot of time for him, I did admire him for kind of saying that. You know what I mean? So that was quite touching, I must admit.
Wow, how did you deal with that period then? The recovery after that, trying to get back into football?
It was horrendous because that was I can't even months whenever it was, but I was back. So I had the operation, and to be fair as well, I don't think he put my mum and dad up. So the club put my mum and dad up in a hospital, in a hotel all week. So they were great in that regard. So I had the operation, and then I was in a hospital for maybe 2 weeks after the operation, and then I came back down the road because I couldn't do anything for maybe I can't really, maybe 3-4 months. So my basically that season was done. I just recuperated. Couldn't do anything. So that kind of knocked really a season out of my time. And then it was more of a. It didn't really affect my football. Obviously, I had to work back and get my fitness, so it wasn't really. It didn't affect my football as much. It was just more my psyche. You know what I mean? I'm a young 18-year-old boy. Just I'm not trying to be crude here, but just you're getting involved with sex and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that we get the opposite sex with girls and stuff like that. So my confidence took a hit.
Yeah.
I'm going like, gee, and is it going to be embarrassing when you're there and you've only, do you know what I mean? And they gave me they could have they were going to put a silicone in a set, but they said it could affect your body might reject it. So I never bothered. But so my confidence took a dent, as in not so much my football, but just my personal life. My personal life, affected that. So it did. And now when I'm older, I don't kind of laugh about it. I can openly speak to people about it, stuff like that. But back then, I was no longer away from home, and this happened. I was like, and then obviously you think, can I have children? And obviously that's not been an issue. But so it did. My confidence and my personality took a wee dip, because of that.
No wonder. I tell you though, good job you went to the club doctor. Can you imagine if you hadn't have done that? Because a lot of guys, as you know, don't go to doctors and everything will be all right type thing. And
no, and she just on that. You're right. Just quickly. So I was up there 17, 18, very very shy. I'm a bit more open now, but very shy. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to tell the physio about this situation. Is not right, but I didn't really sort of know. I was never in, so I didn't really know that. And I had to build. And this is true as well. So. It was a guy called Brian Scott. He was a physio, and I waited too long, right? But I said, right, I'm going to tell him. And ironically, he left and went to Celtic as a physio. So another guy called Roland Arnott came in. So I had to build up a relationship with him before I went to tell him. So and I didn't tell him, and he says, listen, I don't know about this. You need it anyway. I went to the hospital, and as I say, that happened. So. But it was a very. I didn't realise at the time. In fact, I found out later on because I had to go. After the operation, I think every 6 months or a year, I had to go for regular checkups. I don't do that now because it's all clear. But what they did say, because if I'd waited any longer, then they said, see if you'd waited another couple of months before you went to MD, it would have spread. Lucky enough, they caught it just in time. But if I'd spread in my body. I was a goner, basically. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Very, very, very lucky.
Lucky boy. So you spend 3 seasons at Aberdeen, and then you get the chance to move to Dunfermline in May 1981. So Pat Stanton signed you for £7,000. So how did the move come about, Stevie?
Well, because Pat had... See, when I went to Aberdeen, it was fair good. And Pat Stanton was his assistant when I first went up there. Pat was Fergie, and Pat was his number 2. So he was up there. Obviously, got to know me then, and then he left because Hibs came in for him. He was a big Hibby, Pat Stanton, and Hibs. He went back down to Hibs to be the manager, and Archie Rocks came in to be Fergie's assistant. So when they released me in '81, by that time, Pat had got the Dunfermline job. So obviously he knew me from Aberdeen days and was obviously quite keen to get me down there. So, as I say, the Aberdeen kind of released me as I went through that. And then Pat, and I think because Pat knew Fergie, they said, listen, Big Stevie, we'll release him and you can have him. So that was basically I travelled down to see him. The only delighted coming to Fairmont, only that obviously I was full time Aberdeen. You know what I mean? I was full time up there, and obviously not Fairmont at that point, but part time. So that was the big, that was my only. But I wasn't guaranteed it, but I was going to at least get a chance to play first team football. So I was 19, going on 20. So that's a stage where I really should have been playing first team football. So I went down to Dunfermline in 1981, signed with Pat, and then you know what happened after that. But that was probably the best move I've ever made football wise, because the family were absolutely brilliant, and I started playing football, and I basically played first team football right through there, so it was really, really good.
Brilliant. We'll obviously dive into that now, but what was your first impressions at Dunfermline at that point? Because obviously the club were part-time and the crowds were pretty low, and
they were. That's what I'm saying. They were in the league. Well, the League One. When I went down, they were part-time. The crowds were low. They weren't. I didn't pick up on how big a club they were when I first. It was maybe years later that I realised, by the way, what a club this is. And obviously the history of the club, I was unaware of that. The 60s and stuff like that. So when I first went down 81, they were the sort of old first division, but we get relegated. I don't know if it was the first season or the second season, but we get relegated, and we were playing in the League Two, the old League Two, which is a bottom league. And by the way, Dunfermline were second, third bottom, getting crowds at 200-300. Absolutely, you look back, embarrassing. You know what I mean? We're the club, and listen, that was me as a player. Now, obviously, the die-hard supporters who had seen the good times and stuff like that would have been, and that's why maybe they weren't turning up. But we were the bottom three teams in Scotland, which was, you think now, is remarkable, really. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And you mentioned him, Pat Stanton, who signed you. He struggled at Dunfermline in those early 80s. What was he like as a manager to work under? Pat
was, I know it sounds a bit, I don't know, but he was the loveliest guy you could meet, Pat. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I think it worked well at Aberdeen, because Fergie was the taskmaster, the manager, the teacup thrower, do you know what I mean? And Pat was your placid, kind of mild-mannered guy Fergie would blast you, and Pat would come put his arm around you and say, listen, he's on a rant there, just ignore what he says. So he was the kind of go-between. And I think Pat maybe found being the manager a bit difficult, because he was such a nice guy, and we were struggling a bit, and he was never a shouter or a moaner, or throwing the teacups about. So he maybe struggled in that regard, that he just didn't have the temperament or the personality to say what needed to be said at times. You know what I mean? But great guy, nothing. And I've got a lot to thank him for, obviously, for bringing me there. And Scotland also back in the day had a semi-professional sort of international tournament where it was Scotland, England, Holland, and Italy, and it only lasted 3 or 4 seasons. But Pat picked me in 1982 for Scotland. Do you know what I mean? It was like semi-professionals, and I played in a tournament. Pat was the Scotland manager. He was still the fellow manager, but get picked as the Scotland manager to host this tournament. Ironically, it was up in Aberdeen. So he picked me for that. So I've got a lot to thank for. You know what I mean? It was really good for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Do you remember your debut, your first goal for Dunfermline?
I always look back. My debut was against. It was a League Cup. It was 90. Are you going to tell me I'm wrong here? Or are you going to?
No, I've got it here. So your debut was against Hamilton on the 8th of August.
I don't want to say that. So it was Hamilton, East End Park, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or was it away?
I think it was East End Park, and then your first goal was in the League Cup against Hamilton the same month. Two separate games.
Aye, that's right. Hamilton, East Stirling, and was there somebody Montrose, was it, in the League Cup? Aye, Hamilton. Remember that? That was my debut. Aye, East End Park.
What was it like as a young boy to finally you're playing first team football regular? Obviously at Aberdeen you didn't really get that opportunity. So what was it like stepping up to that?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Just listen, the crowds wasn't in their tens of thousands, but just playing first team football and it sounds a bit I don't know, bizarre, right? But just like waking up on Sunday and reading about you seeing your name in the paper, and I don't mean listen, give me for whatever, but just seeing your name in the paper if you'd scored or whatever. Obviously I played at Aberdeen, which was a huge club, but I was never like in the spotlight, or I was never, not that it's about me, but I never kind of read about myself. But when I moved to Dunfermline, I was reading about even you see your name in the team and just the crowds, and going to different stadiums and the whole. I love the whole thing, and obviously that was my dream, was to go and play football somewhere, and it happened at the family, and so was 19's quite a young age as well. You know what I mean? So when you're Jack the lad, you're out to tune, I'm a football player and all that stuff. The kind of the trappings of that, which are a bit not really important now, but I just enjoyed everything about being a football player. You know what I mean? And the Saturday, playing for the first team, I absolutely loved it. And I kind of thrived on it as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's good for my dad as well. He was very instrumental in me becoming a football player. It was great for him as well. He travelled everywhere. He was at every game regardless of where it was. So when you got you got my ticket for the game. So it was great to reward him in that way as well. Him seeing his son play in front of and I think we played Celtic as well. I think we played them, early on in my first couple of years.
We played them in the cup, didn't we? I think they absolutely annihilated us.
They did. They beat us 7-1, but I scored. They beat us. Enough. I still got in the programme. So it was I think they beat us 6-0 at Parkhead, and then they beat us 7-1 at East End. But I was caring because I got a goal, so I was all right.
Great experience, eh? Pat Stanton leaves. Tam Forsyth then comes in. He struggles as well. So what was Tam like? Wasn't there long, eh?
Murder. I hate saying that with MD, but he came in and he just obviously he'd been at Rangers and stuff like that, and he maybe his expectations or his I don't know what it was, but it just didn't click. He just never his methods weren't great. I'll run you. It was just all this. To be honest, he didn't really. I didn't think he'd much of a clue, to be honest. And him obviously been full time all his days, coming to a part time club that was struggling a bit. I don't know if his expectations were out, but it just didn't work out. I don't know. I can't even remember how long he was there for.
Isn't it long, eh? A year.
No, it's that. But no rapport with the player, no rapport with the support. You know what I mean? He was a bit aloof. Because where he played and stuff like that. So just a bad. Listen, or get out appointments or gambles, I suppose, but just didn't work at all.
The next gamble did work when they appointed Mr. Leishman. So, what's your memories of it when Jim takes over?
It was obviously he was there as a coach. I remember that, but he came in and it was. I think he got it. If I remember rightly, just a stopgap attempt and some sort of managed until they looked for something else. But he just, for whatever reason, he just hit it off. Just he loved it. He was the total opposite of Tam Forsyth. He loved the club. Do you know what I mean? He had right affiliation with the club. Local boy, played with the club and back in the day, and just understood what the club was, how big it was, how poor we were, and he knew what it meant to the supporters, the town as itself, and just galvanised, just for the word go, really, just galvanised everybody. And we all, I obviously originally a Fife boy, but I was living in Glasgow, I was travelling through, but, we all got, they're coming for Glasgow, for Edinburgh, for everywhere really, but everybody got a real feeling for the club. And the next, however many years it just transformed the whole club, and which then transformed the whole town, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the whole town just got behind it, and it was just cannonballed through the next 5 or 6 years. It's unbelievable, really.
It must have been amazing for someone like yourself who comes in the early 80s, playing in front of 300, 400, 500, and then all of a sudden, towards the end of your time at Dunfermline, the crowds are 10,000+. It's just mad.
It was incredible, the change. They just, we hit rock bottom. We couldn't have went any lower, and that's when Leach came in. He always says that. He says there were, and which was a good thing in a way, because there's only one way he could have went. You know what I mean? And he went probably maybe higher than most people might have thought he did. But and then you get through the leagues, and the crowds come back, and your 300s are becoming 600, your 600 are 1,000, and then your thousands are becoming tens of thousands. and it was, it was incredible. The travelling support when you went to, the away games. They were matching what the home crowd were bringing. Great support, and then, as I say, you had nights out in the town all the time, and everybody knew who you were, and it was, it's not like nowadays where players don't go out or they go to their own wee places. We were just normal. We were normal people. We were fortunate enough to play football for a local football club. We weren't any. We were treated like gods, right? But we certainly didn't act like gods. We were just in the local pubs, Lorenzo's and nightclubs. We were just normal people, fortunate enough to play with the club, and if you're doing well with them, they absolutely adored you. And it was, it's very humbling, even just thinking back how much they thought of you and stuff like that. Unbelievable, really.
That's what when I speak to guys from your kind of era, that there seems to be a real bond between the supporters, the town, and the football club back then, and the players. Like everything was like together, wasn't it?
Aye, oh, absolutely. It was, whenever you went anywhere, they were there, and I think it's because, we were just, we were talking for myself. I was just a normal guy, fortunate enough to play football, and I didn't. If punters came up and wanted to speak to you, you wouldn't like, well, listen, I'm out with this. I'm not going. You'd started talking to them and signing. You never became pals with them, but you saw them. Listen, I obviously stayed in Glasgow, but I was out to filming all the time, and you just got to know them, and you know what I mean. And they treated like one of them, and I treated them like pals. You know what I mean. And listen, at times they would give you a stick on a Saturday, absolutely right, but it wouldn't carry on in the Saturday night. They would you'd boot about and drinking with them. There's no, it's them and us. You know what I mean. You wouldn't be sitting in a corner, no talk to them. It was just everybody, the punters and the players, all just merged into one. Do you know what I mean?
And what about players at that time? Who was in the dressing room, and who were you close to at that kind of time in the mid-80s?
I was. I'm not just maybe it was just my personality, but I was close to everybody. I'm not passing the buck here, but I was. I listen. There's certain people you get on better than others, but I was the type of guy who, quite a laid back guy, you know what I mean? I had no airs and graces about me. Anybody who came into the club, I would make them feel welcome. So I would like to think that I got on with most guys. Obviously, Norrie and John with the two main characters. That's what I'm saying. They didn't just run the club; they ran the whole town. Do you know what I mean? So John and Norrie were the two mainstays. But myself, you'd Collie through there. Back in the days, Trey Shaggy. Then it changed. It changed slightly and I didn't peeve me or anything like that. But I think the early to mid, when we first started to do well, that was a real. It's like, hey, Paul Donnelly in the early days, guys like that, Westy, Big Youngie, do you know what I mean? Bobby Forrest, guys that were there for a while, and then they obviously were up the leagues, and they brought in a different calibre of player. I'm not sure. Listen, and I'm not going to use the word better because I don't think they were, but a different calibre, as in different type, the ones that had been at bigger, so-called bigger clubs. And
more experienced players at that level, wasn't it?
I don't go by name names, right? But that's where I felt it changed slightly. I thought then it changed slightly. Maybe because maybe it's just because I then felt I was not getting pushed out, but I was kind of, my time was coming to an end, and I was maybe a bit peeved in that regard. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought I was maybe as good as them, but I had to play at the level they had played at. Do you know what I mean? So I got a wee bit, and I thought, listen, I think my time's coming to an end, and I felt a slight change then. But listen, all clubs have got to evolve and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They've got to move on. And they did, and listen, when they come in, they were quite successful anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just felt a bit sad that my time was sort of coming to an end.
Before we speak about that, you win promotion 85-86 and then 86-87 back to back and into the Premier League. What was it like going from basically the second division football all the way up to playing Premier League football?
Well, it was great. It was quite. So 85, 86 was the see. I had a and that I don't know. You obviously won't remember, but but I had a. It didn't. That season didn't end well for me because I was. The season is always great. So played it. We were doing well. I was playing well. I was playing every week. Every week I was playing. Chipped in with the goals. We were going for promotion. So must have been about maybe I don't know the March, April, maybe April time, and it was tight, but we were still in there, and I was still playing every week. But I probably remember Paul Donnelly played previously, and it was away. He was in Australia. He was living and playing in Australia with a team called Perth Azzurri, and they were keen to get me out to play. So just the close season, just when the season finished at Dunfermline, I would go out, play 3 months in Australia and come back. So that was a great opportunity for me. Not so much football, just to go to Australia and play football, experience a different part of life at their expense type of thing. So we're obviously Dunfermline's right in the title race, and it's going to go to the wire. And I'm playing playing well, playing every week, and about 4 or 5 games before the end of the season. So I was in contact with the guy for Australia. And Leash had said, it's okay as long as, it can be done legally and it could be done. So he says, listen, he says, well, when are you going? I says, listen, I'm not going till the season's finished. Don't worry about that. He says, I'm staying here. I want to stay here till the season finishes. And then if I go over sort of middle of May, June, July, and I went back for the start of the season, I wouldn't really need a pre-season because I've been playing. He says, right, that's brilliant, no bother. So that was fine. So as the season's near an end, I'm in touch with the Australian guy, and looking back, I can see now, but he needed things done, like paperwork or things signed for Dunfermline. So I had to phone Jim up a couple of times and say, "Please, listen, I need that signed out. I need to confirm this and all that." So I didn't think much of it. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. So I remember, I think it was the third last game of the season. We were going down to Dumfries to play Queen of South, a huge game. And I needed, the guy phoned me on the Friday. He says, listen, you need to phone Jim and ask for this to get photocopied or whatever it was. And looking back, it was wrong what I did. But at the time, I'm thinking, right, so I phoned Leash the Friday night. Leash, listen, sorry to bother you again. Listen, but could you sign that and fax it out to Australia or something like that? I don't know the logistics of it. Can you do that? He says, aye, all right. So we was doing the Dumfries the Saturday, huge game. I think it was maybe the third last game of the season. I've been playing every game of the season, every game I've been playing. Came to the Saturday, read the team out. I'm not even on the bench. What's happening here? So played the game, and I pulled Leash after the game. Just knowing that, Leash, why have you left me out? I've played every game. 3 games to go. What you left me out for? Because your mind's on Australia. I says, Jim, my mind, I'm no bothered about Australia. My mind's not in Australia. There's things need to get done so that when the season finishes, I'm ready to go. He says, no, you're phoning me a Friday night, blah, blah, blah. Your mind can't be on the game. I said, please, that's nonsense. I'm fully committed. You know that. I'm not going to leave here till the season's done. He says, he says your mind's on that. I don't think you'll be playing I think with 2 games to go. He says, I don't think you'll be playing the last 2 games because your mind is here. I said, and I was really upset by that and really angry by that. I says, listen, that's that. You could be further. This is my club. I'm staying here till the league's done, and then I'll go, well, I don't think I'll play you. I says, well, you're not going to play me, well, I'm as well going now then. And, you know what I mean? Spur of the moment, and I went like, rather than sitting 2 weeks or like, so, I maybe spotted the dummy and said, listen, see if you're not going to play me then, there's no point me be here. I was well going, and I went. And I missed.
Do you regret that?
I absolutely regret it. Absolutely regret it. And I've spoken to Leash, fun enough, we've kind of laughed about it. He does a Q&A with they come back before the hospitality and all that. And I've mentioned that. And see, at the time, I was absolutely raging with him because the agreement was, I can't remember whether it was as soon as the season finishes or whether we won the title. Say we won the title, 2 games to go, I would then go, right? But I says, Leash, I'm not going anywhere till the title's won. And then that was it. But then and I do understand because I then became a manager. And if I've got a player phoning me up on a Friday night saying, listen, and I would say, well, wait a minute, get the game out the road first, then we could do. So at the time, I was maybe young and a bit big-headed and thought it doesn't matter. But looking back, I saw his point of view, and I should have just waited till it was done and then get everything done. So at the time, I was absolutely raging, and no so much the fact that I missed out not being there when they won the title. So that I do regret that. I should have just bit the bullet, no said anything till the title was won, and then get what was needed done, and then went out.
We are Flow Digital Pharmacy, and we are proud to sponsor the Walking Down the Holbeath Road podcast. Our easy-to-use app is a convenient way to access your NHS prescription medication, and our team of trained pharmacists are helping thousands of people to access the support and medication they need. If you're registered with a GP who's based in England, you can use the Flow app to securely and conveniently send them NHS medication requests and arrange delivery to a location of your choice at a time that suits you. This means you can avoid the hassle of contacting your GP and making unnecessary round trips to eventually collect your prescription. Find out more at weareflow, spelled PHLO, that's weareflow.com.
So I went over that. I had a really good time, but I came back and I missed it. You know, how many times you get the chance to play in a game where you actually win the title on the day, and then I missed out on that, so I'll always regret that.
And you missed out on the night in Lorenzo's that night as well, no doubt.
Aye, that was more important than actually getting the medal.
See that season, the club recorded the EastEnders record and all the Pebble Mill stuff. So what's your memories of all that going on? Because again, like Leash created this whole PR thing about the club, and everything was on the up, and we're in the national press and the tellies and all the rest of it.
That's the thing, didn't Leash, and I'll never forget that. Was something you're going, we're going down to Pebble Mill, you know what I mean? And that was quite a big show back then, and we're just daft boys for Dunfermline. But I remember it, and we've been down in it was either the travel. I think the Pebble Mill was the Thursday, so we travelled down on the Wednesday. I'll never forget this at all. So we travelled on the Wednesday, just in a bus down to Birmingham. It was Birmingham, and then they put us up in a hotel, and then we're on the bevy in the hotel, obviously, right? I've seen obviously, right? Shouldn't say obviously, but we're all just sitting down the stairs having drinks and stuff like that. And it must have been the whole full squad was there. At least, and I remember Winker, and I don't know if it was a drink, and Winker was quite I've never really seen Winker angry, but something must have happened. And he just got the table full of drinks and just tossed the table up in the air, and the glasses smashed and drinks went everywhere. This is the night before it. And Lisa went like, what are you doing? She said, right, you're not going on the telly tomorrow. So they banned Winker for going on the telly. So we all woke up on the Thursday for the recording, the live show, and Winker wasn't there. But by the way, I think we all wish we weren't there. But so we went along and sang this song, you know what I mean? And I've got it YouTube. And every now and again I'll look back and have a chuckle, but it was you're like, what's going on here? But it was listen, you were on the back then, you know, there wasn't no social media, no live, not a lot of live football going on. So to hear and see on the telly was quite a rare thing. Do you know what I mean?
I've actually got the unseen footage from the recording studio for that, so I'll send you the link after this podcast. You can get a wee laugh. It's class. It's absolutely class. We then go to the Premier League, 87-88. You play 17 games. So what was it like playing in the Premier League and the big crowds, going to Ibrox, Celtic Park, Aberdeen again? What was that like?
Oh, that was brilliant. That was that's what you know. That's why you're in the game. You know what I mean? To get a taste of that, you know, it was incredible. You know, I remember the very, very first game, the 3-3 draw with Hibs, was unbelievable. And then, anyway, so I get left out after that. But then I had to go. You know, we go to Parkhead and Ibrox, and you know, and back up to Pittodrie from us, and Easter Road, Tynecastle, just brilliant. You know, and because it was years since the club had done that, and they fought again, and go back to the fall, and the support that Aberdeen that Dunfermline took was unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? And I was really, really good. That's why, you know, to go from where you were 3 or 4 years ago in front of 200 people, you know, being second bottom in the second division, to, you know, short, you know, only talk about maybe 3, 4, 5 years later, you're running out to Parkhead and Ibrox. It's just incredible, really. And Great for the club as a whole, the town, but obviously with Rangers and Celtic, Hibs and Hearts coming over just over the bridge, they brought huge support. So even your games at East End Park were electric. Do you know what I mean? Really brilliant, absolutely brilliant times.
Good times. And that season, again, the club were quite forward thinking at this point, and they bought a bit of land called Eagle Glen to try and build this super training ground that never really materialised. So what's your memories of being up at Eagle Glen?
Eagle Glen, it was quite bizarre because you'd only ever been, I started part-time, and then it was only, you're only that far into your full-time, and you thought, by the way, this is great, your old wee training ground, but bizarrely, so we were not, so we used to change there, but bizarrely, it was, I can count in one hand how many times we actually stayed at Eagle Glen and did the training. We used to go to Eagle Glen and then go to Aberdeen or Petrivi or wherever it was, so it was good to have, I suppose it was good to have a wee base away from the park where you then get a wee buzz when you were back to East End just on a Saturday, so that was quite good, but you went to Eagle Glen, but I think the premise was that the training ground and facility would be there, but I can't quite remember it, but there was I think there was maybe a couple of pitches, but there wasn't ideal. That was good because of the changing room and a wee, your building there, but we used to just travel there, meet there, and then go somewhere else. So it seemed a bit...
It'd be the minibus down to Petrivi most of the time, eh?
Aye, down to Petrivi, the minibus to Petrivi, aye. So it was a bit bizarre, but I don't, maybe for whatever reason the plans never worked out or whatever.
I think it come down to money, plus from what I've heard, the grounds had a lot of drainage issues, so the grass and that wasn't great for football, eh?
I think that might have been it, yeah.
There you go. But then the following season, we got relegated and we're back down to the first, and that's your last season at the club. You're kind of in and out the team at that point, eh? So it's like you mentioned earlier, must have been frustrating.
Aye, I remember that because, you always think, you always fancy yourself for a game, but, I felt I never really got the opportunity because he was, your Billy Kipwood, George Cowies, I remember Beatties coming in, John Holt's, good guys and all that, but I just felt that I never really got the opportunity to establish myself regularly. I was more squads and on the bench, and I would come on, I'd start the odd game and come on and stuff like that, but I just felt that, I don't know, for whatever reasons, I was my way out, you know what I mean, and just they were looking for a better, well, no, maybe I don't know, better, a different type of player, I don't know, somebody, as you say, somebody probably with Premier League experience, and I just found I was a bit part player, and having been a sort of first team regular for all these years, and then to find just, because I was just desperate to play for Dunfermline, that's all I wanted to do, and I wasn't really getting as much opportunity as I thought I should have had. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel quite right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. There's a few players I want to ask you about. Obviously, you've mentioned them throughout this. Norrie and Winker. What was it like with these two guys in the dressing room? Obviously, they ran the pubs in the town, and they were such popular characters. Eh? What were they like?
I just listen, but good, real good guys. And I still keep contact. Obviously, I keep contact with Winker and Norrie. Listen, but they ran I was going to say they didn't run the club because they were, people, guys like me wouldn't have let them run the club if you're not, and do you know what I mean? We they were just good guys, and they weren't any, they didn't act any differently because they weren't in our eyes, they weren't any better than us in terms of people or players. And they didn't think that either. They were real good team players. They went out and they had no airs and graces again. They didn't, because they were such high profile players about the town with their their pubs and their clubs, and it was John and Norrie. You didn't say John without Norrie or saying Norrie without John. You know what I mean? And they were inseparable, absolutely. And to this day, Winker never been the same. Totally inseparable. But in that changing room, it wasn't John and Norrie sitting in the corner, and the rest of us, they were brilliant boys. They would do anything for you. I was very, very close to the two of them, very close, away from the park as well. You know what I mean? Really close for them. But they wouldn't get above themselves, and I know they had the business interest in the town. But during the football times, and even when we went out to the pubs and all that, they look after you. Just really, just good people. You know, I mean, they didn't get affected by all the fame and went with it, but really, just really good boys.
Yeah, proper legends. Another guy I wanted to ask you about as well, and you mentioned him at the reunion we had in March, was Gary Riddle, who you were really pally with as well. A lot of fans won't know this, but you and Gary were pretty tight, weren't you?
Oh, honestly, I can't believe how we just hit it off so quickly. I don't know what it was. You know, I was slightly old, maybe. I can't get years, maybe 2, 3, 4 years older than Gary, but you know, we just hit it up. Maybe it was Aberdeen connection, you know, Aberdeen to Fairmont. I was the same, but hit it, and he was a great lad. He had a flat in the town that I used to go and stay with him. Just really good lad. Socialised with him all the time. You know, he came through to Glasgow, stayed at Marplet. You know, we had a night out here and went in the holiday together. Had a great time, and I just, you know, obviously, I know if Gary hadn't died to try, I would have still been in contact with him now, because we just really one of these. I mean, I got in with the majority of just everybody that played with the film, but you know, there's maybe half a dozen that, you know, I'm really close with. And Gary, for the short, I mean, listen, you're talking a year and a bit, nearly 2 years. Wasn't a long time I was close to Gary, but I was as close to Gary as I was MD, you know what I mean? And it was really, I'm still, listen, we're talking years ago now, but it still, I would say, irks me, but it was just tragic how it happened, and for it to happen to somebody so young with his whole, forget about his football life, his whole life in front of him, and such a really good, very good family as well. In fact, we took his brother with us. He lasted a week. He just couldn't, but real good family upbringing, and absolutely tragic. Do
you remember when you heard the news? It's one of those probably JFK moments for you, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember being, and I think it was in my girlfriend's house. Well, my wife now, my girl, and down in Erskine, and Ian McCall, and must have heard, and he says, he phoned me, and he says, I'm going to get emotional here. He phoned me and he says, where are you? I says, I'm down at Leslie's in Erskine. He says, you better take a seat. And I thought, my heart just stopped. I thought it was maybe, I don't know, my family member. He says, because he was close to my family. He says, you better take a seat. I says, what's happened? He says, big Gary Liddell's died. And I says, because Collie was good for the wind-up, but I thought, I'm going, Collie, tell me this in a wind-up. He says, no, he says he's died in a half marathon. And I kind of shut off, because I just couldn't, one of the ones you know, you couldn't,
really?
No, I couldn't believe it. And then obviously that must have been, I don't even know how Collie found out, but because obviously there's no much, you know, social media. Anyway, so, and then I discovered in time exactly what happened, stuff like that, you know, and then so I'd left. I was away from Dunfermline, and but I come back, and I was a pallbearer. I was a pallbearer. I went up at Elgin. I was up to I carried his coffin at his funeral, you know, and just horrible, really.
Yeah, well, his memory lives on. We make sure of that, mate. Never be forgotten. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it there. You left in March '89, and then the club went on to win the league. It got promotion back to the Premier League. It must have been gutting for you, not being part of all that, eh?
Aye, that was because obviously that was March, and then Lisa's like, listen, we're going to wanted to bring wee Eddie Gallagher in, you know, and half of me thought, you know what, I'm going to stay and stick it out, you know, and hopefully get a couple more games and just be there when it's done, you know what I mean? But the minute it became that close to being right, we've agreed a deal with Hamilton. Eddie Gallagher's coming here. We're happy for you to go there. And again, stubbornness or whatever you think, well, if I'm not wanted, I'm away, right? And again, do I regret it? I don't know, because you don't know. I might never have kicked a ball if I say no, I'm not going. You know what clubs are like. They say, well, all right, you can stay, but you're not playing type thing. You know what I mean? So that could have been the case. So I just went, you know what? If I'm not wanted, if you don't think I'm capable of helping you go over the line, then I'm going to go. And I just left. And the thing was, no, again, no that it's to do with money or anything like that. But I made a point of maybe principle. I don't know, but so I left, went to Hamilton, and then Dunfermline obviously went on to win the league, and obviously there was a bonus structure in place where if you'd played so many games, you get so much per game or per point. I remember I phoned in the club when I would left. I said, listen, I'd played X amount of games and I'm due X amount of money. I says, listen, I know I've left now. I feel I'm entitled to that. I was part of it. I still did play these games. And to be fair, they said, right, listen, we'll look at how many games you played and what is the whatever it is you get per game. And to be fair, whatever it was, I got the money. Know that money makes up for, being there and getting a medal and playing in the game. But I mean, back in the day, it was, it was quite a bit of money as well. You know what I mean? Back then, so they did give me the money, which was decent of them, I suppose. But I wasn't. But listen, I was entitled to it because I did play the game. So it was a bit disappointing because I never ever wanted to leave Dunfermline. You know what I mean? Ever. But I suppose your time comes, and I moved on.
Aye, we'll touch on the clubs you went to after that. But on reflection from your time at Dunfermline, 223 starts, 54 subs, and 48 goals. So, is there any favourite games or goals that stand out in your memory from that time?
First of all, it should have been more starts. Sorry, let's get that clear. It should have been more starts. I'm joking.
We'll blame Mr. Leishman for that one.
Exactly. Aye. No, listen. Again. I hate going on trumpet, right? But see, I was never one for a tap in. Do you know what I mean? I was. I can't think one that sticks out because I did score a few really good goals. I think that's what I was renowned for, was because I did. Again, there's a lot of stuff I couldn't do in terms of it. I was a good passer of the ball. I could strike a good ball, and I did score a right few good goals. I think there's any that stick out. I don't think I scored many that were. I'd love to have scored a goal that won us a title or a cup, but.
You mentioned the goals against Celtic in your early time. That must have been pretty special for you.
I remember that. That was I was that because I remember I was ahead of a corner and Packy Bonner was in goals. Again, 7-1, you get beat 7-1, but that was I remember that one. Because it was my first goal. Against sort of a bigger opposition, so I do remember that one. And because again, you play on the Saturday and then you read you read about the stats the Sunday, Dunfermline v Celtic. And I remember Charlie Nicholas was just breaking through. He got 4 that day. So the sort of story was about him getting 4 goals, up-and-coming star. But then, and Dunfermline's scorer was Stevie Morrison. So that, I used to cut, my mum used to cut out all the clippings, and I've got 3 or 4 scrapbooks. So that was a good one to have. Not obviously know the result, but the fact that, and scorer for Dunfermline against Celtic was Stevie Morrison. So that was quite, because I'm a Celtic supporter and stuff like that, that was good to see. Do you know what I mean?
What about games? Is there a game that you can pick out?
Probably the one in 80, the one that Queen of the South, was it? We drew with Queen of the South, 1 each, I think, to get us up.
Yeah, to get us promotion. I think that was 86, 87.
Aye, that's right. Aye. Yeah. Well, that's the one. Aye. But that, so again, me and Collie always reminisce about this. So I had a really good, I had a decent season there. So that was the third last game of the season. So that got us promoted, right? You know the facts and stuff like that, stats, right? So that got us promoted because we couldn't be caught in terms of promotion wise. So it was a great night that night. So that was brilliant. The punters coming on, but with 2 games to go to win the title, right? Airdrie away and Montrose away, right? We needed 1 point for 2 games for the title. Airdrie beat us 3-2-1 or something, and Collie scored a penalty, but we still needed a point we went up to Montrose, we were relegated, they were already down. We got up to Montrose, needing a point for the title, and they beat us 1-0. That still hankers, that still wrangles with certainly with me, that we never, obviously promotion was the main thing and it was brilliant, but we should have won the title. We should have won the title that year and we never.
Was that down to pressure, do you think? Expectation?
Possibly, or the fact that promotion, obviously promotion's the be all and end all. You get that with 2 games to go, and maybe the pressure's off a wee bit. I know you're probably meaning pressure, great pressure. Probably the pressure's off a wee bit, and you're not, and we shouldn't be. You're not 100% at it. I always remember as well a kind of typical leash, right? So Airdrie beat us, and then we've got to go to Montrose. The last game, I was relegated. So we were in, and on a Thursday night after training, he'd put the squad up, because obviously we're a big squad, and sometimes you just want it. So every Thursday you'd say squad for the X game is blah blah blah, and you'd put the names out. So we got about Thursday night. So we're going to Montrose, remember, to win the title, but because we got promoted, the club had promised us we were going to Spain, we're going to Magaluf for a week, right, end of season. So we still wanted to win the title. So anyway, Thursday night training before we go to Montrose, we go over. He normally put the squad up, and then he'd have, say, 16 names, 18 names, individual names. So he said, we got the squad for the Montrose game to win as a league on Saturday is all those going to Magaluf. Do you know what I mean? So he didn't. So I don't know what his thinking was, but it should have been. No, listen, that's not why we get beat, but it should have been Westwater for whatever individual. He went, all those going to Magaluf reporting Saturday for the Montrose game, you know what I mean? Which just kind of summed him up. But anyway, that's a wee by the by. But we're not, remember, we beat 1-0.
That kind of leads me on to the next one. I was going to say, is there any team talks or dressing room stories that are vivid and stick out in your mind from that time?
Funny enough, won it again. Big Leash, again, he was, there's that many for Leash, but I remember we played Rangers at Ibrox, 83, 84 or something, right? And I was a bit of an enigma because I was a decent player, but Leash always thought was a bit, I don't know, a bit lazy or a bit, didn't he, for film? I don't know what he thought, but anyway, so we got into Ibrox, was going to Ibrox. I think that's maybe the first time I played there. So we're in Ibrox and we're all sitting there dead nervous because it's a Scottish Cup game. And there must have been about 6, obviously all were desperate to play. So he reads the team out, and I remember, and I don't think anybody noticed bar me, right, because he only read 10 names out. He went through back, and I'm going, and I probably noticed because my name wasn't on it. I'm going, and then I'm thinking, he's only read 10 names out. And then he walks round, and we're all sitting down. He's standing in the middle, and he comes on to me sitting down, grabs me by the throat, yanks me up. This is in front of everybody. I'm going, what's happening here? And he says, I see you. He says, how many names have I read out? I says, I think you've only done 10, boss. He says, do you know who the 11th is? I says, well, hopefully it's me. He says, it is you. And see if the 11, you're the best player here. He says, but you don't do any. He's went on for about 3 minutes about not so much how good I was, but how much more I could give because of the ability I had. And this is your kind of platform. I felt a bit embarrassed. It was sort of picking me out and saying this and that about me. But listen, it didn't go on for 2 or 3 minutes, probably 30 seconds, but it felt like 3 or 4 minutes. Listen, this is your stage and how you should be playing out here. And I don't know if obviously it was to sort of give me a wee boost in that. And I actually went out. It must have worked because I remember getting a man in the match. I played really, really well, but that was bizarre. I remember that, vividly, obviously because it happened to be. But going back to Tam Forsyth as well, this is why he was hopeless, right? So he used to come in and he'd read the team out, and you'd be sitting there and he could see you all, and he'd point to you, and he'd get around. I don't know, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
Right, so you'd be sitting there, and he'd go. So we need to do this, we need to do that, and he'd go, you can score goals, you can score goals, you can score goals, and he'd come to somebody and go, and miss him out and go, do you know what I mean? So it was good. You know what I mean? Bizarre things like that. He used to say, you can do this, you can do that, which good things. And then he'd come to somebody and miss them out. And they're going, what's happening here? So, you know what I mean? You can do this. But he never said you can't do that, but he never, you know what I mean?
That's even worse saying nothing, though.
Exactly. Singling people out. And he did that every week. Whether it was scoring goals or you can defend or you can tackle or you're good in the air, and he would go in about 7 and miss about 4 out. You're going, if you're the one that's missed out, you're going out. This is about 5-3.
No wonder he didn't do much as a manager. What about your memories of playing at East End Park, the old terraces?
Oh, that's they were. Well, I remember because I'm trying to think if I don't have a. Wait, do you know when the stands that went in?
The seated stands didn't go in until about 97, 98.
Right, all right. So all my time there, then yeah. Well, obviously, I've not experienced playing. Obviously, I've been back a lot. I used to love it, and that's the one thing I'll live with me forever is, you know, I used to take the free kicks and corners, and I always remember stand side and the far away side. You're there to take a corner on our right hand side attack side. You know, when the ball would be there, and you jog over, and you'd have, I don't know, whatever the hell, shouting Zico. Honestly, Zico, and you know, and honestly, it's funny because I'm probably more emotional now. Obviously, when you're playing, you can't get emotional. You know, listen, it's brilliant to hear and all that. You know what I mean? But looking back, to have that shed or the terrace shouting Zico, yeah, do you know what I mean? It was it's unbelievable, really. But I used to love when East End Park and playing, you know, the supporters there, the shed, and the way they got behind you. Although at the time, you know, we were talking about when we were 300 or 400. The game, listen, they weren't fickle. They're firm supporters. Fickle was when they should boo and they don't. But see, if you want to do it, listen. Many a player crumbled at East End Park, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because if you weren't doing it there, they would let you know. And now, listen, I went through a time as well. You know, back there that 82s, 83s, where I wasn't liked at all. You know, I mean, I used to get, you know, booed when you touched the ball or you gave it away and stuff like that. So I could have crumbled, but for some reason I managed to play my way through it. And I went when I first went to 81, came down for Aberdeen, and I got, you know, they treated me really well because the first season I was a striker. I did quite well, and then I think it must have been our second season where as a striker I struggled really badly, and maybe in the expectation because you come from Aberdeen you should be better than maybe what you are, and I didn't produce at all that one season, and I get booed and taken off early and applauded when I get taken off and all that, and I thought, well, I'm only there last year. And then I think it was maybe when Leash was taken over that he put me back into midfield, and that was a change. That must have been maybe 83, 84, and that just changed my career at Dunfermline. I just became a right good midfield player, and I won, and I'm really great. I won the supporters over again. You know what I mean? And because, well, I'm not saying I'm a hero, but I kind of kind of player at the club.
A cult hero from that time, I would say.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, yeah, that you know, obviously that's I would never call myself that, but it's nice to hear that, obviously. And I managed to turn them over, and hopefully I'm for. Well, I know I'm for them to remember because every time I get back, you know, they're brilliant with me. Do you know what I mean?
Always welcome back, mate. What's your favourite memory? If you could pick one memory from that 9-year spell at East End.
Oh, jeez.
That doesn't involve Lorenzo's.
Oh, there's none then. No, listen, it would probably be that game when we got promoted. You know, I remember just the scenes. You know, I remember after the game, and I remember going to because our doors open back in the day. The dressing room doors opened up, and you were down the step. I think we all piled up there, or we were up in the stand or somewhere, and just the pitch was just full of supporters, and we were up at must have been the front row of the stand, just getting all the applause, and I think with the mic out, we were singing stuff like that. That was, you know, that was in terms of football and and that was an absolutely brilliant, because I think that's the first time you'd ever kind of, really achieved anything. I know we was the fault of the previous year, but I wasn't there and I didn't experience that. So for me, that was brilliant. And it's hard to pick because, obviously there was one or two we sat down, certain things I want to say, but generally at my time, it was brilliant. It's difficult to pick out. Just even the type of guy. I'm big on, obviously you want to play, you want to have good teammates as in player-wise, but I like remembering the guys, because there was nobody. See, anybody that walked into their firm and thought they were Billy big time. They would get knocked down a peg or two, not because anybody was any better than them, but listen, that's not what happens here. We're guys doing our best for the club, and and to be fair, very, very few come in with that attitude of, well, I'm better news now. I'm a bit more aloof, because if they did, they wouldn't last very long. Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult. I hate not being specific, but just my general time at the club was nothing but great, at least for me.
A special decade, eh? So you leave Dunfermline in 1989, and between 1989 and 94, you go Hamilton, Dumbarton, Clyde to Alloa, and then you have a wee spell in 94 in Northern Ireland at Larne. What was that like, playing over there?
Honestly, that was brilliant. I remember that because 94, I'd left Clyde, and I thought, well, and that's Alex Smith was a manager, and he was a very well thought manager, and he wanted me to take my coaching badges and then become a coach at Clyde, which I was 33, 34, and I thought, and I felt a bit bad, because I said, right, okay, and Clyde were going to put me through my badges. So they put me through my badges, got my B licence, and then I thought, you know what? I'm not ready to be a coach. I still want to play. I was 34. So I told Alex Smith, and said, okay, that's fair enough, you want to go back and play. So I thought, I've got a club. I don't mean I've got a club, no bother, but a senior club. And I thought, it was made available. I put it was in the papers, blah, 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 available. And I thought I'd get no for any big clubs, but I thought I'd first, second division. I thought I'd get somebody would take a chance, never had a dicky bird. And then junior clubs started to phone me up. I thought, here we go, I'm going to have to go junior. But I still wanted to play, whether it was that level. So, strange thing was, so I signed for Kilburnie Lakeside down in Ayrshire, and I thought that's me, I'm going to play junior for the next X amount of years. So, I was playing junior, and then about September, October time, I got a phone call from somebody in Ireland saying, listen, Larne are looking for an experienced midfield player, would you be interested? I says, I'd be interested. So I got a signing on fee for Kilburnie, so Larne paid them the signing on fee back, Kilburnie, and Kilburnie agreed to let me go. So I went out to Ireland, played there for the season, and absolutely loved it. And it was great because unbelievable looking back. So the deal was, I'd get a wage, but they'd fly me out on a Saturday morning, play the game, put me up in a wee sort of bed and breakfast place in Larne, and fly back on a Sunday. So it suited me down to the ground, and because of the relationship I had with Alex Smith at Clyde, they were full time, and Larne were kind of paid me a full time wage. So I phoned up Alex Smith. He said, "Listen, Alex, I'm in Ireland, just playing a Saturday. I just need training facilities." And he was brilliant. He says, "Listen, because you done me a turn, we won the title with Clyde when I was there. So I trained Monday to Friday with Clyde full time at Cumbernauld, and flew out for the Saturday game in Lard. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved my time there."
Brilliant. Great experience. See, at 98, you rejoin your pal Ian McCall at Clyde Bank, and you sign as a player assistant manager.
Use the term pal loosely, all right, with McCall.
Best pal. But you're a player / assistant manager, so you obviously spoke about starting to move into coaching. Was that something you had planned on doing?
No, not at all. Not not at all. I basically, and here's the truth of the matter, right? So, Collie get the Clyde Bank job, right? And he didn't drive. And listen, it's probably a bit more than this, but I'll tell you it's no. So he got the job at Clyde Bank out of the blue, because he wasn't. I don't think he was ever interested. So he knew the guy who bought Clyde Bank over was McCall's pal, a financial guy. So he got Collie in, and Collie couldn't drive, right? Couldn't drive. So he got me in basically to drive him to training and drive him to games and stuff like that. And I know you're kind of laughing, but see, deep down, it's partly a bit of truth about that. Listen, I was never a great coach, but I'm a good football guy, if you know what I mean. So I knew my football, wasn't practically. I was never a good coach or stuff like that, the best. But he wasn't that. So he got me in to drive about and have me about the place because I was good. I'm good with boys and good with players and all that. And I can take drills and stuff like that. So and we won the league. We got promoted. I think it's not picked us to the title, but we got promoted in the first season at Clydebank, so that was good,
Brilliant. And that was a really tough time, Clydebank. They were kind of nearing towards the end, the financial situation. And
it was horrendous because, and also see, halfway through that season, the guy David Lowe was the guy's name, right? He was the guy that was Fergus McCann's financial advisor when he took Celtic. So his plans were to buy Clydebank, into Clydebank, move them to Dublin. This is, believe it or not, this is the truth, right? It sounds absolutely bizarre. Their aim was to buy Clydebank and base them in Dublin and play out of Dublin, which is so much pie in the sky you wouldn't believe it. So obviously, Clydebank didn't have a great support, but they're a loyal support. You see the minute they get that, you would not believe we'd supporters chaining themselves to the goalposts and protesting all this. And they totally lost it then, and we weren't happy because we're halfway through the season, we're in the title hunter promotion, and this comes out, and they came along to boo, and see this quite bizarre. We went up to Brecon last game of the season, had to beat them to get promoted. We beat them 6-1, got promoted, and supporters they didn't actually go to the game, but they came up to Brecon, stood outside, and see after we get promoted, that they tried to charge our dressing room and get in and assault us or whatever. It was absolutely unbelievable at the time. You know what I mean? Because of this Dublin thing. So it was a bit of a sour note. And then David Lowe left, and then Colley left, and I was manager for a bit the following season. But it was just with no money. I was driving. Listen, I can get into detail, but it was just absolutely bizarre. But it gave me a good. I was never wanting to be a manager or a coach, but it gave me the opportunity to become a manager in my own right at Clydebank in the first division.
Yeah, I remember Dunfermline were in that division that year as well.
Oh, Dunfermline, Hibs were in it. I remember going to Easter Road, Hibs were in it. So, it was. Listen, we were bought the league and kind of beat most weeks, but I absolutely loved it. Just the fact that I didn't set out to be a manager, but I got the opportunity, and it was the experience I got in terms of manager and just sort of being in charge of a club and just sort of, even the life. I mean, some of the stuff I had to do as a club, as a manager of a club was unbelievable. Great experience.
What did you learn the most? Obviously, that was a really tough time to start off your career in management.
It was just me. I had no help, and I used to go to. We were based at west of Scotland, up at Mulgai. And with a clapped out old minibus that I used to go up there, and a couple of YTS boys packed the kit, and I used to have to drive. We called it the Blue Bomber, right? And see, I don't know if it's the funniest or the weirdest story, right? So we drew Hibs in the cup, and I had to drive through to Easter Road with this Blue Bomber, right? I chucked the old thing, right? And you couldn't start it. You had to start it on a wee incline, a hill. So I had to park this minibus, reverse it up a wee slope. Luckily, I had a wee slope just at Easter Road, just where the way buses went. So I parked the Blue Bomber, right, and I went out and managed, and people, so I'm the manager of the dugout and all that, so people are looking at this, there's the manager. I mean, we actually got a job, believe it or not, right? So I'm coming out of there after being a manager there, standing in the dugout, doing this, doing that, and I get out into the minibus with it. I'm putting the hampers in this Blue Bomber, and I'm having to jump start this blue minibus going down this, and Hibs fans are going by. What's the manager of Clydebank doing? Sit, jump start, and that drive. You know what I mean? It was just honestly, and I used to love it because I didn't really take. I took my job seriously, right? But I just felt the whole experience. I just kind of loved it all, the bizarreness of it. Do you know what I mean? It was crazy.
It must have been stressful.
Oh, it was. And we went. We had to go. Honestly, I was never out in the SPF offices because we any players we signed, we couldn't put them on years' contract because we couldn't. There was no guarantee they were going to be there. So we went month to month. So see, every month I had to re-sign players, go into the Park Gardens or Park Circus or whatever, and I was doing every job under the sun. And then obviously having to train and then manage the team and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It was just
crazy.
Honestly,
for no money as well, no doubt. Eh? Next to no money.
No. And see, I only wish. See, you see Netflix. See if they did a Netflix documentary, a mass season there, people would not believe it.
I can imagine. Carnage. In 2003-2004, you then have a stint at East Stirling as manager, and then you rejoin your pal Ian McCall at Queen of the South. You get to the Scottish Cup final, so that must have been class.
Oh, that was great. So I did my stint at East Stirling, and then that finished. I thought that was maybe me done, but Colley got the Queen of the South job, and the first year we went down was, I can't remember what year it was, but we took over in about maybe the January time, and we were fucking, sorry for swearing, we were maybe 12, 15 points adrift at the bottom to go down into the, I think we were in the Championship, maybe didn't, I can't remember what league it was, and somehow the two is galvanised the whole place, and I think the last day we managed to stay up, which is absolutely incredible. And they were part time, and then Colley got them full time. So I was working with them, so I didn't go full time, but he kind of turned them into a full time club. And then got to, Colley left. I think he got the sack. Maybe Gordon Chisholm was there at the time as well, Big Chizzy. So it was me, Chizzy, and Colley, and then Colley got the sort of bump halfway through that season, and then Chizzy took over with me and Kenny Brannigan came in, and we got them to the cup final, which was, incredible, really.
Amazing, eh? For a club like Queen of the South, it doesn't come around
very often, and just bizarrely. I mean, I'm trying to think, but I think we were lucky with a couple of we went to Peterhead, and I think we also got Bonnyrigg Rose, I think, but we also Dundee. I think we got Dundee at home as well. We beat them. But the strange thing was, so we got to the semi-finals. We beat Dundee the quarters, got to the semis, and we were due. I'm trying to think how it worked out. Or we got to the. Anyway, we're going to be playing. The draw came out. The draw came out for the semis, and Rangers. Can't remember who Rangers got, but we were going to get Celtic. Sorry. So I'm trying. So Rangers came in. Rangers got so Aberdeen. The draws. Celtic and Aberdeen are playing in the quarters. They drew. So while the draw get made, and we were going to play the winners of Aberdeen v Celtic, they'd actually drawn it Pittodrie. So, and the draw was made, and it was Rangers v something, I can't remember, they got, and Queen of the South v Celtic or Aberdeen. So the replay was at Parkhead. So we're just assuming the Celtic are going to win the replay. So we're thinking, well, we're going to get out, but at least we'll get a semi-final against Celtic. And that beat at Hampden, which is not the same as a final, but equivalent, no far off it. So anyway, Aberdeen get back to Celtic Park and beat Celtic in the quarter final. So then we've got Aberdeen in the semi-final, which it's a wee bit easier, but still you think, you've not much that. We beat them that's probably one of the best games I've ever involved. We beat them 4-3.
I remember that. Yeah. Jimmy Calderwood was at Aberdeen at that point, eh?
Jimmy Calderwood, and I remember him quoting, he was driving back to Aberdeen thinking that, and he'd done a lot. That was the worst he'd felt after any game, was going back up, having lost a semi-final between the South. And then obviously we got Rangers in the final, which was, that was brilliant.
Superb. What an experience. What type of coach would you say you were? Manager, coach?
Honestly, I was very much, again, just one that took over with Clydebank, and then Clydebank was our first managerial post, and so Colley left, and they were never the way this club was, they were never going to bring anybody else in. So it's not as if brilliant with Snowy coming in now. It was just a progression. Colley left to go to Morton. They were halfway through the season, but named the money. David Lowe was never going to get manager. Right, he says, right, Stevie, listen, I just want you to take it through to the end of the season. I says, listen, I'll help you as best I can. So I was very laid back. I spoke the first I got the meeting. I says, and he used to no annoy me, but back in the day, but you got. Listen, I'm not interested. I'm still the players are called me Snowy. You know what I mean? I didn't want all that boss stuff. You know what I mean? Because what other line of work do you call your boss? That I've always had a gripe about that. Right? You know what I mean? I know football's slightly different, but you don't get in your workplace and call your boss. You call him by Mister that or his name, right? So I'm not want call me Snowy as long as the respect's there. And listen, I got total respect. You know what I mean? Which all you can ask for. You know what I mean? But I just worked with the players. We did. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it was good in a way because we never had a big squad because of the financial situation. We'd maybe, honestly, I think with 13 players maybe. You know, the odd trialists would come in. So I wasn't had to leave players out. Every game people were stripped. So I didn't have a big issue with people chatting my door. I want this. So it was, in that respect, it was good. It's bad because you can't really change a lot, but it's good because you never get any hassle. It was the same 13, 14 every week. And because I had just finished playing, the training was quite good because I gave them stuff, not to make it easy, but just stuff that I know the players like, ball stuff and stuff like that. So it was good, you know what I mean? And the boys gave their all. I mean, but we just struggled with results because of the numbers. The boys gave their all. They did their best. And that's all you can really ask for, you know what I mean?
What's your thoughts on football now, and if you were still involved in coaching and managing?
I think again, maybe I'm the old school, the dinosaur and all that, but I don't know. I just think it's went far too way into the technical side of it, and the heart rate monitors and the stats. Well, we're going to keep an eye on your data because you only ran so many yards or meters, or I don't kind of maybe I'm naive, right, and too much old school, but as a manager, a coach, we're looking at the game, who's cheating and who's running, who's giving up and who's not going quite, the full 9 yards. I mean, I just think it's all, well, a manager pulling in on Monday, well, that computer says you never tried hard enough. I would, I mean, your eyes tell you that. Maybe it's too simplistic. I don't know, but
I agree. I think it's overly complicated now. Same with the systems they play in formations. Just there's no need.
No, and the way the goalies and all that play. And listen, see, the bottom line is it's not changed in 150 years. You need to score more goals than the opposition. And see if you're winning, nobody's giving an iota about what you're doing. It's only when you start to be, well, why is that formation right? Are they training hard enough? See if you win games. Nobody's interested in what happens away from all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? The bottom line is you just need to win games. Do you know what I mean?
How do you think you'd cope with obviously social media and the heightened negativity around football nowadays?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Even now, I don't. I'm not on. I think, and again, we were laughing earlier on about me doing emails and all that. I don't need Facebook, Instagram. I couldn't even name them all. I will do WhatsApp because I need to, because I still play football. I need to get my school chats. Not interesting. So I think it's I find it. I don't know. I don't know why people. I do know why people go on it, but I've got no time for it at all. I'm not on any your Twitter, your Insta. I don't do any of that.
Fair play, Stevie. You mentioned the school there. Tell the listeners what you're up to nowadays.
I'm a teacher in a school in Paisley called Kibble. It is a residential school for young people with emotional and sort of learning difficulties. I've not had a great upbringing and are in care. I teach PE and I do outdoor education with them. I do outdoor sports and stuff like that. So that's very rewarding. I've been doing that for probably too long, maybe 22, 23 years now. I'm very lucky to get the opportunity to do that because I was never really qualified in that. So I do that as a full-time job, which it's very, very challenging but it is rewarding at the same time. So I do that for my full-time job.
Tremendous. And you're still obviously coming to Dunfermline games now and again. So what's your thoughts on Dunfermline these days and modern football compared to your time?
I try and get 3 or 4 games a season. Obviously, desperate for me to do well. I don't know. I mean, obviously the competition is maybe a lot harder now than it has been. But I think terms of the firm, you know, I mean, it's a mid-table championship side, you know, I think the size of the club and the support base that they could generate, you know, they'd be looking, I think, maybe to get back the Premiership as soon as they can. But it's very, very difficult with the calibre of team that's in the Championship just now. You know, they're not. I don't suppose they're even near being favourites for it. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, football's changed that. Well, as we were talking 5 minutes ago, it's not really. It's still got the pitch and the 2 goals. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't have changed that much, but obviously it has over the years. It's I don't know. It's very, very competitive now, and I suppose money dictates a lot of things. You know how well clubs are funded. I don't know the ins and outs of their firming situation in terms of their backing for the board or whatever. But a few quotes for James McPay telling me he's maybe not too happy, so we'll need to see what happens.
I see what happens. Finally, to wrap this up, what does Dunfermline Athletic mean to Stevie Morrison?
Listen, it means the world, to be honest. You know, and it's strange because I played there. Obviously, I played there 9-ish years, but you know, as you read at my clubs, I have played with 5 or 6 other clubs, but I you know, and I did enjoy my times at other clubs and gave my best for the clubs. You know what I mean? But I don't see myself with any sort of affiliation with them at all. But Dunfermline, and I played. I think it was also because I was there 19 when I was 19 till I was maybe 27, 28. So you're there for your peak of your footballing career. And I was always, I didn't play every game, but I was, back in the day there wasn't many reserve teams, I suppose, but I was first team football all the way through. And it was great for me to develop as a person as well when you're playing your first team football, just to meet the people. And I'm hopeless for keeping in touch with people, absolutely hopeless for keeping in touch with people. But even that last reunion we had to see the boys was brilliant, and I said at the time, and I mean, it's the football club means a lot to me in terms of the way supporters treat you, the way you're thought of when you get back. It's very, very humbling to walk into the suite or the hospitality suite, and there's guys that you rarely know coming up and singing your praises. It's very, very nice, and again, I played with a lot of really good players, but again, the most important thing, you could be a really good player, but know the best of people. But I've met a lot of really good people over the years. And that's the most significant thing for me is, I say I'm friends. I say I'm hopeless at keeping friends, but I do know a lot of people, and hopefully I'm held as high a regard as I hold a lot of people in that kind of regard. Do you know what I mean? So then what you look back. I mean, I'm in my 60s now still. I played over 35s, but just regardless of what happens in your life, that right through the 80s I played. It was a great social period as well. I must admit that. Even I was a kind of single guy living in Glasgow and enjoying myself socially, and I think that always helps as well. When you're a full-time best job in the world, and you're at an age where you can enjoy it, and the trappings that come with that were brilliant as well. You know what I mean? So, and I says I'm getting on a bit now, but what I did back then, you've done that. That nobody can take that away from you. The good times you had, and people talk about, I remember talking to somebody and we're talking about titles and all that, and I think I got one with Clyde and one title with I don't even know where my medals are. You know what I mean? And people say tainted titles, but but looking back at the memories, I would rather have the memories than a medal. Do you know what I mean? I'm not really that bothered. I'm actually moving house soon, so I'll maybe dig them out. But the memories, live with you forever, and nobody can come in and, age might take them away, but nobody will physically take them away. Do you know what I mean? So I really do. It sounds a bit cheesy and tacky when you say it, but I do cherish the years I had with Dunfermline.
Brilliant, Stevie. Well, it's been great having a chat and catching up, and hopefully see you back at East End this season coming.
Aye, I'll look at. I've got the fixtures, and I'll be through to maybe 3, 4, even half a dozen games. I'll definitely get through to a few this season.
Good man. Well, thanks again for your time, Stevie. That's been class.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, And a big thank you to our guest Stevie Morrison for sharing his stories and insights with you. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite podcast platform so you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this one, please remember to leave us a rating and a review, as it really helps us reach more Pars fans like you. If you have a question or a suggestion for a future episode, we would love to hear from you. Just drop us an email at fpa@dafc.co.uk. This podcast was produced by Jan Motkiewicz and music supplied by Stuart Dusty Miller. Thank you once again for listening, and we look forward to walking down the Holbeath Road with another former Pa next month.